monthly scheduled meeting of the City Council of Bessemer City. Tonight, we will have Council Member Nellie Floyd to do our invocation, after which we will continue to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. If everybody would please stand.
Let us pray. Gracious Father, we just want to thank you for another opportunity. Lord, we just want to thank you for being the God who you are and over this great city, Bessemer City. Lord, we thank you for our mayor and the cabinet and all the ones that's represented here, Lord. And as we come into our meeting tonight, Lord, we thank you right now. We thank you for the citizens that have shown up. We thank you for the babes from the different schools, Lord, as they come in excited about what's going to be given to them. So, Lord, as you govern us and strengthen us and give us the courage to stand, Lord, and as we go into our meeting, Lord, we want you to be in the midst, that the words that are said and the things that are demonstrated and thrown out to the night in the meeting, Lord, that you will be a part of it and that everything will be in peace and harmony, that everything would go the way that you would have it to go. And we will give you all of the honor, the glory, and the praise. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Okay, our first order of business is the approval of the agenda. What is council's desire concerning this? Wait just 1 minute. We have an addition.
Yes, ma'am. Mayor, I was going to ask for council to add one item to the agenda tonight under the manager's report. The Downtown Development Board has requested a change to their meeting schedule. They want to revise when they meet every month from the last Monday of the month to the last Thursday of the month. So that would just require a council motion just to change that.
And we're going to put that under your report.
Yes, ma'am. That's what I would recommend.
Okay. Okay. Motion was made by Councilmember Guffey. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. We're always so excited each month when we get to recognize the students of the month from Bessemer City High School, Bessemer City Middle School, Bessemer City Central Elementary, and Bessemer City Primary, and Tryon Elementary. And it's so sad when this is our last month for this school year, because next meeting, school will be out, and the kids will all be going here, there, and everywhere. So, but we're so glad to have you with us tonight. And do we have anyone else left in the auditorium that's supposed to be a citizen, student of the month? We don't want to forget anybody. Okay, we're going to start with Bessemer City High School and Principal Johnson.
Good evening. I will begin with our ninth grader, Nazir Harris. He is a brilliant student. His math teacher said that he has come a long way since the beginning of the semester, and he puts his best foot forward every single day. We are blessed to have Nazir at BCHS to complete this semester and this school year with us, and we are very proud of him. Next, we have our 10th grader, Luna Aguilar. Luna is recognized because she is extremely helpful. In one of her classes, she has two students who speak no English. One student speaks Spanish and the other student speaks Portuguese. And she is able to help translate for her classmates no matter what. And everyone is very appreciative for that, so that not only she can succeed, but they can also succeed. Thank you, Luna. Our 11th grader is Peyton Ingersoll. Peyton is always kind to her classmates and eager to assist when needed. She works hard in her classes and her grades are very good. She especially excelled in her art and music classes where she constantly makes A's. Our 12th grader is not with us this evening, but her name is
Congratulations.
Alicia Avila Arelanes. Alicia works hard on her assignments and projects and is always available to assist others when needed. She excels in all of her classes and projects as well, and her artwork is often displayed for others to see and use for inspiration.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us tonight. We would like to recognize three very special students from Bessemer City Central. First, in fifth grade, Micaiah Cozart. She is not with us this evening, but she demonstrates exceptionally good judgment. Her ability to make thoughtful decisions, considering both consequences and ethics, is truly admirable. Next, in fourth grade, please welcome me in recognizing Braylon June. Sometimes it can be hard for students to demonstrate good judgment with all of the obstacles life throws at us, but making the best decisions is easy for Braylon. He always seems to be able to do so, whether it is with his schoolwork or when it comes to friends. Braylon is consistently using good judgment, and he listens to others in class, which is an important quality for making good judgments. Braylon, thank you for being a star student, buddy. And then in third grade, please welcome me in recognizing Emma Abernathy. Emma is a student who always shows good judgment. She works hard to make smart decisions and is quick to report if something happens inside the classroom that isn't a smart decision. She is able to be very reflective upon her own actions and make smarter choices in the future. Emma, thank you for being a star student.
Good evening. All right. In second grade, we have one student that's not here, but his teacher wrote about Candler Carpenter, that she has known Candler since he was in kindergarten class. I was lucky to have him again in second grade. He can always be counted on to make good choices, follow expectations, and show responsibility. He is kind to others and respectful. In truth, he exemplifies all the character traits we try to instill at Bessemer City Primary. For this, I'm proud to have him recognized as Doing the Right Thing winner, and I know that next year his teacher will be lucky to have him and proud to know him too. So that's Candler. Our next winner is Tucker Baxter. Tucker is, his teacher writes, is a sweet and respectful student and kind to his friends. I want him to be recognized for a character trait that is not easy for a second grader, perseverance. Tucker may not always have to use perseverance himself in a classroom, but he recognizes when others do and encourages them as any friend or caring person would. Nor does Tucker limit his encouragement to just his friends and classmates. A gentle reminder to keep trying is appreciated by his grown-ups as well. So thank you, Tucker, for reminding your friends, classmates, and even your teacher that we should all keep trying when things get tough. And Maddie Hall is one of our first grade winners here. There's Maddie.
He should have done it, shouldn't he?
Maddie, her teacher writes, is an amazing student who exemplifies every positive character trait that we have discussed over the school year. Not only is she a wonderful role model that can be trusted to follow the class rules, but she is also an amazing friend that is ready to lend a helping hand to whoever is in need. Maddie brightens up everybody's day, including Miss Coy, her teacher. Miss Maris, our next first grade winner is Harley Talent. And Harley reminded me that this is her second time here. She came here as a preschool student as well. Yes. And her teacher writes that Harley always follows directions and does her best. She's a helpful friend to others, and Miss Creighton loves having you in her class. Thank you. Congratulations, Harley. Representing kindergarten, we've got two students. The first one is Colt Clampett.
Congrats, good job.
That's right. There we go. And Miss Pruitt writes that Colt has always shown honesty in her classroom. Even if he needs to be redirected, he always tells the truth. We are proud of him and how authentic he is at such a young age. Congratulations, Colt. And our other kindergarten winner is Kirsten Johnson. And Miss Gibby writes that Kirsten is a student that shows perseverance every day. When things are challenging, she does not give up. Kirsten continues to come up with new ways to solve problems and learn in the classroom. She is a hard worker, and she is passionate about learning and growing. So congratulations, Kirsten. And that's it. Thank you so much. I'll get this to King. No, that's perfect.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Elementary, we have Kelsey Nixon. Graduated this week.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so in kindergarten, we have Acacia Brewer. Acacia has worked very hard this year. She is a good friend to others and follows our classroom rules each day. Acacia participates and pays attention during our lessons. Acacia is a star student. All right, in second grade, we have Miss Alea Brooks. Alea has worked really hard this year and has made great growth in both academics and behavior. Congratulations, Alea.
Great job.
shown so much academic growth. He works hard at everything he does and always strives to do his best. He is kind to everyone he meets and always ensures his classmates are safe.
Next,
That's for life.
I want you right here in the middle. Jenny? Moms and dads, can you see your sweetie up here? Stand up as close as you want. As many pictures as you want. You don't have to say that name. Big arm up here. Let that happen with that. We are so proud of all of you. Let's give them one big round of applause. Very, very much for coming up here and joining us tonight. And now you may go back and join your dad. We appreciate you coming out. All the hard work. And moms and dads, it's a school night. So if you need to take them on home, you're welcome to do so. If I can set a council meeting, we'd love to have you.
Thank y'all for coming. Thank y'all for coming.
But that crowd got a lot smaller. Where you been? Hey, Dave. Hey, Daniel. Okay. Our next item of business. Just 1 second. Okay, is our opportunity for public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to express items of interest to the mayor and city council. This is not a time to respond or take action. Any necessary action will be taken under advisement. Speakers are asked to use proper decorum and to limit comments to no more than 3 meetings. And as I see right now, we don't have anyone that has signed up for public comment tonight. So moving right along is our consent agenda. The items on this month's consent agenda is to approve the minutes of our regular meeting of April the 8th, 2024, and approve the minutes of our work session meeting of April the 30th, 2024. Do I have a motion from council to approve the consent agenda? Okay. Brenda Boyd, or Councilmember Boyd, made that motion. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. Thank you. Now the business items. Proclamation commemorating National Police Week. And this is to recognize National Police Week 2024 and to honor the service and sacrifice of those law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty while protecting our communities and safeguarding our democracy. Whereas there are approximately 800,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the Bessemer City Police Department. And whereas nearly 60,000 assaults against law enforcement officers are reported each year, resulting in approximately 16,000 injuries. And whereas since the first recorded death in 1791, almost 25,000 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and been killed in the line of duty. And whereas the city of Bessemer City wishes to recognize Officer Michael Patrick Jenkins and Chief Lloyd M. Parton of the Bessemer City Police Department, who were killed in the line of duty. And whereas the names of these dedicated public servants are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C., and whereas many new names of fallen heroes are being added to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial, and whereas the service and sacrifice of all officers killed in the line of duty will be honored during the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund's 36th Annual Candlelight Vigil on the evening of May the 13th, 2024, and whereas May the 15th is designated as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of all fallen officers and their families, and U.S. flags should be flown at half-staff. Therefore, be it resolved that the city of Bessemer City formally designates Sunday, May the 12th through Saturday, May the 18th, 2024, as Police Week in Bessemer City and publicly salutes the service of law enforcement officers in our community and in communities across the nations. What is council's desire concerning this proclamation?
I make a motion, we adopt the proclamation.
Okay, Alan Hook made that motion. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. And we have two. I thought we had three. Is Officer Bean out there?
On the hallway.
Would you ask him to step in? He's going to. We have Sergeant Bean. We have Captain Bond, and we have Deputy Chief David James. Okay. If you would, please, let's give them a round of applause to show our appreciation. In Bessemer City, we have a wonderful police department, and this is just a couple of the ones that we have. But if you see any of them out this week, please thank them for their service. Next, we have a proclamation commemorating Juneteenth week, a national week of pride. Whereas the Emancipation Proclamation, an executive order issued January the 1st, 1863 by President Abraham Lincoln, immediately freed approximately 500,000 from generational bondage, but still left approximately 3.5 million enslaved across the United States. And whereas Juneteenth is the oldest known celebration commemorating the ending of slavery in the United States, excuse me, when Union soldiers led by Major General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas to announce the war had ended, freeing the enslaved. And whereas 2024 is the 159th anniversary of Juneteenth Day, a federally recognized holiday as of Friday, June the 18th, 2021, which commemorates June the 19th, 1865, as the observance of African American Emancipation Day of Freedom, and whereas Emancipation Day is an opportunity for Americans of all faiths to join in united prayer to acknowledge our dependence on God, to give thanks for blessings received, to request healing for wounds endured, and to ask God to guide our leaders and bring wholeness to the United States and her citizens. And whereas Juneteenth is a time to cultivate the true spirit of freedom and remember our ancestors as the men and women who bravely acted as catalysts for change. And whereas the city of Belmont, city of Bessemer City, city of Gastonia, and Elements of Empowerment will host a Juneteenth celebration on Friday, June the 14th in Bessemer City Centennial Park from 6 o'clock p.m. until 10 o'clock p.m. and Saturday, June the 15th, 2024 in Belmont and Gastonia, beginning with Juneteenth Sunday on Sunday, June the 9th, 2024. Now therefore I, Mayor Becky S. Smith, and the City Council do hereby proclaim June the 19th, 2024 as Juneteenth Day and Sunday, June the 9th as Juneteenth Sunday, and encourage citizens to recognize and commemorate Juneteenth, which honors the history, legacy, and culture of African Americans throughout the United States of America by participating in celebrations and festivities during the month of June. What is council's desire concerning this proclamation? Okay.
accept this proclamation.
That was Nellie. Any further discussion? Since Heidi is not here, we're making sure we've got everything down. That's why we're having to call out the names. But, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Next is to establish a public hearing, rezoning request, Trine Courthouse Road. City Council will consider establishing a public hearing for Monday, June the 10th, 2024, at 7:00 p.m. to hear public comment regarding a rezoning request from property owners for property located at tax parcel number 151483, which is 0.58 acres at 1220 North Trine Courthouse Road, from rural to neighborhood residential for the construction of one single-family residence. Okay, what's council's desire concerning establishing this public hearing for June the 10th? Okay, Michael? And any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. Thank you. Now I'll need a motion to open a public hearing. Before we do that, I'm gonna let you start. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mayor. I think prior to the manager's proposed budget hearing, public hearing we have scheduled, I was going to go through a couple of the items that we discussed in past work sessions. And so we've got that on the screen for you, for those in the audience and those online. So the 24-25 proposed budget that has been uploaded online for about a week and a half now indicates that, if you go to the next slide, John, first we'll look at the budget schedule. This just gives a snapshot to the public of what's taken place so far. We always say in local government the budget process is year-round because you're always operating out of a budget, preparing for the next budget, and then you're in the process soon to be auditing the prior budget. So this is our schedule of what we're looking at for the 24-25 budget. Today being May 13th, this is the night that we have our public hearing. City Council will have a third budget session at the May work session, and then hopefully we'll have an adoption in June at the regular meeting. Go to the next slide. Some of the things that I wanted to highlight in this presentation is the things that we've already discussed in work session, but just to give some perspective of what this current proposed budget looks like. So we're going to look at the mission, vision, values, and goals as established by council. And as just a basis, that is how the budget is developed. That is what council establishes as what they want to see in the budget, how they want the city to progress, and areas they want staff to focus on. We'll also look at general budget highlights and circumstances, and that is the budget in its entirety. We'll look at each budget by fund. We'll also look at proposed fees and rate changes, which includes the city's tax rate, staff investment, and then a few closing remarks. So first, we'll look at the mission, vision, values, and goals. And I know council's heard me say this a million times. This was revisited at the February retreat. It did not change from the prior year. But as you can see on the screen, this vision, which indicates what our future looks like, our mission identifies our purpose as an organization to grow and to provide quality service. The next slide goes over the values and the goals that council has adopted. These are the values and goals that staff uses as we develop the budget from year to year. This is also how we work to develop policy and know where to focus our attention. So the first area, the main area that I want to look at and present tonight is general budget highlights and circumstances. The total budget, and this is between 5 funds, and we'll go through each fund, is a little over, or about $15,473,000. The proposed budget does primarily include general operations, expenses, payroll, and then also debt service. The proposed budget also includes efforts to address what's called financial performance indicators of concern, or FPICs, and that was established with our 22-23 audit. That presentation was given to council, I believe, back in January or February of this year. So as we go to the next slide, there's 5 factors I want to identify, and this is what has led to the development of the proposed budget. We want to look at additional debt service that the city has taken on over the last 10 years. We want to look at additional operational expenses, some of which have derived from those debt services, but also inflation, which we've all felt the impacts of. Fund balance is also a key factor, looking at fund balance as a budgeting tool, and then also how we build back our fund balance in order to stay in compliance with those financial indicators of concern. Investments for new growth as we see the community grow, and then also as we realize the decrease in utility usage amongst customers within the city. So the first one, as I talked about a minute ago, additional debt service. I won't go through each of these projects on the screen, but as you can see, there's been a number of projects that the city has invested in over the years. One of the most recent projects that we finished was Stinger Park last year. July 1st was the official opening date. There's also been work in a new public works facility. There's been investments in the water plant, water and sewer lines, streetscapes, community center renovation, Centennial Park, and there was a fire department expansion a number of years ago as well. So as we look at this, as we look at additional debt, there's also additional operational expenses. So when you look at those types of projects, you do have to factor in operational expenses over the years. Some examples of that have included staffing, utilities, just capital projects themselves with the debt service. And then also we have to factor in inflationary changes that local governments unfortunately are not immune to, but we've all felt personally as well. So fund balance, the reason I have the word savings in parentheses, so fund balance does not necessarily mean savings, but in this context, I want to focus on the fact that for budgetary purposes, one thing that the city has had to do in the past and has done is there has been funding that has been coming out of fund balance to balance our budget. Now, there can be a number of reasons that this happens. If you get grant proceeds, you have unexpected expenses, that can happen. But the rule that you typically follow is you don't want to balance your budget from your fund balance savings, essentially. So the proposed budget that council's been presented does not have budgeting from fund balance to balance the budget. So we're not pulling from savings to balance our budget. It also has an effort to build back our fund balance so that we can be in compliance with the LGC standards and also to help with the city's cash flow. The fourth factor I have on the screen is a decrease in utility usage. And I'll walk through this as we go through each fund. The city is allowed to do what's called an administrative charge to utility funds for charges that derived out of the general fund. This proposed budget has less transfer amount to the general fund. One, because the general fund has to work towards not depending on the enterprise funds to operate. And then also that administrative charge needs to accurately reflect shared cost between all funds. The last point under general highlights is investment for growth. So as growth occurs and as we've identified ways as a community that we want to see growth, and I do believe that's a mixture. You know, you want to grow at a pace that you're comfortable with. Being in the Charlotte market, this is something that's naturally going to occur. There are things that we have to prepare for that are stemmed from that as service delivery changes. Now, new growth does add to your tax base. It does add to the total amount of funding that you have to provide service, but you still have to account for that, and that's also why you see an increase in the budget this year. So the last slide I have under general highlights is a discussion about the tax rate. The city's current tax rate is 45 cents per $100 evaluation. The proposed budget is calling for a 60 cent per $100 evaluation, which is a 15-cent tax rate increase. The city has only raised the tax rate 2 cents over the last 10 years with with the tax rate being 47 cents for 1 year. This proposed tax rate really is there to account for past expenditures, past debts, along with changes to costs with inflation. It's also there to help identify, to account for the financial performance indicators that our 22-23 audit had. So that is a 15-cent tax rate increase proposal in the 24-25 budget. Just to highlight a couple of things per fund. First, we'll look at the general fund. And so this is anything from police, fire, administration, parks and recreation. Again, the 15-cent tax rate increase, which is proposed to be 60 cents per $100. Solid waste fee right now is $12. The proposal is to raise that to 16 with a new contract that we're currently negotiating. We're looking at a decrease in the enterprise administrative charge from $950,000 to $800,000, and then again, not budgeting from our savings or our fund balance. So some of the expenditure changes, and I will say as part of this is added service that the city is investing in. The proposed budget has 24/7 funding for part-time fire coverage. So last budget, or the budget that we're in now, we only had limited part-time staffing of 24/7. In January of this year, council voted to expand that for additional part-time staffing and 24-hour coverage. So this proposed budget has that for a full year. This budget also includes a 2% cost of living for staff, and that's a 2% across all departments, so that will include other funds as well. During one of the work sessions, council did a goal-setting exercise that identified items department heads highlighted as needs. And so this proposed budget includes a majority of those, except for, I believe, 2 items. And some of those include code reviews, software for Parks and Recreation, additional investments for Stinger Park, pool improvements, and recruiting material for our police department. This next slide shows a breakdown of what the proposed tax rate would look like. A proposed tax rate of 15 cents would generate additionally a little over $1 million in general fund money. But when you break that down, and this is not to make light of a 15-cent tax rate increase, that's a substantial increase in this proposal. These are some expenditures that are accounted for as part of that. So if we start out with a little over $1 million, close to $200,000 is in addition for fire department staffing from where our current budget is. $110,000 is utility expenses derived from Stinger Park, which does have a chance to possibly decrease a little bit over time. This current budget that we're in, we started out budgeting $250,000 from fund balance, so from our savings. The proposed budget has $0 from our savings. There's $150,000 less coming from enterprise funds, and that's primarily water and gas. And then $130,000 being applied to the general fund, which was traditionally applied to all 3 funds. So when you add that up, that's roughly $830,000 of the $1 million generated. What that does is that leaves, if you want to go to the next slide, that leaves roughly $220,000 left in general fund for the items that you see on the screen, which was the council prioritized goals, 2% COLA for staff, which is roughly $90,000, accounting for inflationary changes, so departmental supplies, fuel, any line item will be affected by the inflation that we've seen over the years. And then also, once again, efforts to build back our fund balance and cash flow, which are stemmed from those financial performance indicators of concern from the LGC. Water sewer fund. So once again, there's a proposal for rate increases in this fund, primarily to account for increase in operational expense along with debt service and also sewer processing cost. There's a 7% increase proposal for water in this budget, a 10% increase in sewer rate, and then once again, not budgeting any funding from fund balance. This was also a fund, if you recall, that was part of those financial indicators of concern that we needed to address. Expenditure changes include a maintenance project on the 1-million-gallon tank, and then also a dredging project at Long Creek and the water treatment plant. The natural gas fund, So we have seen a decrease in usage from natural gas over the years. A lot of this is derived from weather, but also as natural gas customers fluctuate between commercial and industrial. The city's goal was to expand that usage of natural gas among all customers, and we've seen that in some of the project proposals. The base fee rate for natural gas in this proposed budget is to change from $6 to $8 per month. There's no rate increase proposed for residential or commercial. This proposed budget also includes adding an additional gas technician / backhoe operator. And then also another expenditure change is decreasing the transfer from natural gas, the administrative charge for natural gas to the general fund from $300,000 to $100,000. Stormwater fund, council has already adopted this plan. I believe it was the last regular meeting. A few years ago, the city did what's called an impervious surface fee schedule study that bases stormwater fees on the amount of impervious surface that you have on your property. So it's broken down in between two different structures. You have a residential stormwater fee. The proposal on that is to change to $307 per month to $6 per month. And then the non-residential fee is proposed to, and actually already approved by council, to go into effect July 1st at 50% of the rate as identified in the study. This fund has to operate separately, so all these funds operate separately and independently. Expenditure change would be hiring a full-time stormwater administrator that would also help with permitting and planning, development services, and then, of course, additional funding for stormwater maintenance and repair as the city works to catch up in that area. The last the last fund that I have on the screen is for what's called the POW bill fund. This is essentially an allocation from the state that the city receives every year that goes towards resurfacing, patching, filling potholes. That's projected to be $180,000 this coming year. And that's a mixture between a debt service for a paving project that the city did about 9 years ago, I believe, and then the remaining funds will go towards the patching and resurfacing. So this is just a recap of the proposed fees and rate changes that were already looked at by fund. So once again, I won't go through each of these again, but this is just a snapshot of what's already been discussed as far as each rate. There are other rate increases that the city, or that I'm proposing at this point in time. If you go to the next slide, John, all the fees that you see on the screen, so it includes sewer tap, zoning text amendment, zoning map amendments. These are all really focused more towards subdivision, minor and major subdivision. The city has seen an increase in cost to provide service as we review projects, review plans, as we absorb advertising costs for projects as they come up. Whether they're approved or not, we still have to go through that process. And so this budget includes fees that will help to absorb that cost more. And these are fees that go towards the applicant, which most of the time are developers. So the next slide, this is just an example, because I know the focus of this presentation really is on the tax rate. If you look at a $200,000 taxable valued home in Bessemer City, right now they pay roughly $900 per year to the city at a 45-cent tax rate. With a 60-cent tax rate, that would increase to $1,300. So that's an annual increase of roughly $400. Now, again, this is an example based off of those figures. When we look at fees, and this is just looking at minimum fees and set fees between water, sewer, stormwater, and solid waste, you're looking at about $116 in addition per year. One of the last areas I want to focus on is a staff investment. And the reason I've wanted to bring this up is because, you know, as a community and as we grow, the staff of Bessemer City really is our greatest asset. They're the group that makes projects go through. They're the ones that work on water line breaks, their public safety. our team does an incredible job. This proposed budget includes a 2% cost of living increase. There was not a cost of living increase in the 23-24 budget. The purpose for this is to increase our competitiveness and talent attraction. As we grow as a community and as the region grows, there are more opportunities for staff to look at other places. So we want to make sure that we're competitive, and then also to ensure that our salary and benefits match the market. And that's one thing that we're continuing to work on to ensure that we're in line with what that should be. Just a couple closing remarks, and this is just to recap current projects that are taking place. The city is seeing investment in industrial growth, which is Southridge 85, which is located in Southridge Business Park. Edgewood 85 Commerce Park is expected to start in the next year and a half, and that'll be 1 million square feet. We're seeing residential growth with single family, multifamily, which includes apartments and townhomes, Osage Mill, small businesses, and we're starting to see more of a trend in certain growth patterns. There's also a number of grants the city plans to work on during the next budget year, which includes a stormwater planning and asset inventory grant, community branding and economic development study, and then also a directed grant from the state of North Carolina for public safety infrastructure. I did want to make sure the public knew that there's a QR code on the screen, and there's also a budget link. If you go to this link, you will see past presentations. You'll see the line item budgets from the proposed to the manager recommended, the budget message. So all budget detailed information is there for the public and for that review. But Mayor, that's all I have. If there's any questions.
Okay, does council have any questions for the city manager? Okay, may I have a motion from the council to open the public hearing for the proposed 2024-25 city budget? Okay, Donnie Griffin made that motion. Any further discussion? Favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. This public hearing is now open. Do we have anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor of the proposed budget? Do we have anyone that would like to speak in opposition of the proposed budget? Come to the microphone, state your name and address.
My name's Greg Ferris, 905 Thompson Avenue, Bessemer City. I have to take a while. 3 minutes is not a long time for me because I'm long-winded sometimes, but I want to go over a couple things Josh said that started off wrong with me. Number one, when we did the revow, year or 2 years, whatever it's been, this city did not do a tax reduction. So that's like paying twice. We got to double our tax rate. This year, we're saying, hey, everybody, let's give up another 30%. So we're 130% where we were 2 years ago. Gaston County is cheaper than the city is. There's no way possible the county can run cheaper than what Bessemer City can run. I'm going to tell each and every one, because a lot of you wasn't on the council when we made choices several years ago. So now you can. You're at that level, you can make those choices. I will say it is not easy to say no. That is a hard job to say no. But you can't spend more money than you bring in. And that's what we've been doing year after year after year. And now you know why we're in trouble. We're in trouble with the state, and now you're going to put it all on the backs of the citizens because we didn't make the right decisions 4 or 5 years ago. I come too late on one issue, and that one issue is costing us about 16 cents right now on our tax revenue. And everybody knows that was here in the past, knows what that issue is. I'm not going to go back into that again. There's issues up there right now, like Josh brought out, where we're getting ready to spend money. And I will restate this. It is okay to go back and say no. You're fixing to put a big burden. For me, not so much, okay? But for the rest of the citizens in Bessemer City, huge burden. You think about how many elderly people we have in Bessemer City. $500, that's not an accurate figure. When you start using water and you start using sewer, and you start adding up those monthlies, and $200,000, that's not the average cost of these houses in Bessemer City. It might be the valuation right now. That evaluation is going up because if you sell that house right now, you're probably more like 300, 250, 300. Those valuations are going to go up. You're looking at multiple investments of housing projects coming in. We've got one just after this that's fixing to start. You got Lennar fixing to start. You got buildings coming up that's fixing to be rented out that's already processed. It's not in a taxable income base right yet. That's going to start coming in. But you also have infrastructure. So you've got costs going out, just like Joshua said on that. Every new investment comes to this city, we have to have infrastructure. And our infrastructure is not good right now. We've been trying to improve, and I've seen a lot of improvement, and I appreciate that. All I'm going to say, it's okay to say no. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
The only thing I need to say is that I'm Michael Meeks, 812 West Virginia Avenue, Bessemer City. I'm hoping that my council representative don't vote for any of this. And I want to give the rest of my time to Mr. Ferris to finish up his conversation.
Yes, we've never had that to happen before, but I
I'll take
guess.
as much as I can get, because I'm long-winded. So anytime somebody wants to go in detail about figures and numbers, I love it. This is what I focus on. I think right now we're down to 1 cent for every tax revenue that we bring in, equates to about $76,000, if I'm not correct, Josh. Is that about right? Okay. Not far off. So, in your proposed budget right now, as far as industrial parking, you talk about another industrial park coming in. I think we have to look and say, what's coming in? And we used to do that. I'm kind of an outsider looking in. I know you guys spent a lot of time going over this budget. But what's the proposed budget income? What's the proposed budget when these new plants get on board and these housing developments get on board, which half of it's going to be done in another year? That money's going to be coming in. So now you're starting to over budget, right? Half of those projects up there, there you go, bring back the old memories. We put a lot of stuff on hold. You go back to your families and you're making $1,000 a week and your kids want four-wheelers and they want cars. When I look at that screen, I'm like, hey, we're getting everything we want. If your kids want it and you can't afford it, do you get it? You say no. So I'm going back to my no. It's going to be like my Nike commercial. I just don't understand and see it. I love the forward aspect, but when money becomes tight and we're starting all these new projects and we're looking at grants, and especially with matching grants, right? Every time we get a matching grant, it's great to get awarded a grant, but that means we got to come up with money. That's another debt structure. We got to say no. We got to build on what we got. We got to let companies come in. We got to let development come in, and we got to grow on what we have. So, I can go round and round and round, and that sounds like about what I'm doing right now, but all I'm saying, look at it. Find out what we really need. What makes this city thrive? And this city thrives on people. And we have good people. There's no doubt about it. We'll work off that, right? You've got to pay employees now. I run a business. If you don't pay the employees, that's one thing you got to do. You got to keep your employees. But the rest of it, do we need the new cars? Do we need the new backhoes? Do we need this and that? The things that we can get by with that doesn't have to be bought this year. Maybe not next year. And let money come back to the pots. Thank you for your time.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? Then do I have a motion from council to close this public hearing? Alan or Brent? Alan. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay, this public hearing is now closed. We're not up for a vote on it tonight because we're scheduled to have another budget session. So moving right along. We have a public hearing for the petition for voluntary annexation, Meritage Homes. City Council will hold a public hearing to hear public comment regarding a voluntary annexation petition from Meritage Homes, Stewart Crossing, for property located at tax parcel number 304904, which is 23.688 acres. Did you, Nathan, have anything? Nathan? Okay.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is for just a little bit of background. This was development site. Project was previously approved as an Eastwood development back in 2022. They eventually pulled out of the project, and then Meritage Home picked up the project and continued forward with it. If you could bring up the third picture, please. This is the project site. What's outlined in blue is already in the city limits. The project site stretches all the way back to the green area shaded, which is our Stinger Park. So what you would be voting on tonight to annex in is the back half of the development, which is the tax parcel 304904. As a part of this project, they are going to construct a pedestrian bridge from the Rero development to Stinger Park for pedestrian access. They are going to provide natural gas within the development for the residents, and it is going to be served by city utilities, water and sewer. And I do have two representatives on behalf of this project here tonight if you have any questions for them.
Would they like to address council prior to the hearing? Please state your name.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
address.
Dennis Rory with Meritage Homes. Just happy to be here, here to answer any sort of questions that you have, but definitely wanted to introduce myself. And also have Andrew Grant. He's with BGE. He is the civil engineer for the project.
Does anyone have any questions for these gentlemen so far?
I have one for Nathan.
Excuse me.
I have one for Nathan.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
Are we, gonna uphold the original rezoning when that went through the first time?
The urban residential conditional district? Yes, sir. The secondary side will assume the same zoning district as the front half of the development. So the entire development will be zoned the same. Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Nathan? May I have a motion from council to open this public hearing? Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay, this public hearing is now open. Do we have anyone who would like to speak in favor of this voluntary annexation? Do we have anyone that would like to speak in opposition to this voluntary annexation?
Greg Ferris, 905 Thompson Avenue. Mr. Guffey asked a question a while ago about bringing the rezoning over to this parcel, which is fine. But we did a stipulation on that last time, and I want to make sure everybody's understanding of that because Mr. Smith had to clarify that to make sure we had the record set straight. That we put a conditional thing that says it's a 30-foot buffer around that property. So when this gets rezoned or annexed in, that 30-foot buffer will go all the way around the property that will be maintained by the HOA for perpetuity of that housing development. Just to make clarification of that.
The point is that if this is just
I understand, but
so
they're going,
whatever zoning is currently applicable to this property.
but the conditions on that zoning will go along with this parcel as well.
The
I just
conditional
don't want
uses
that.
are,
I just don't want that to be done and then everybody says, oh, it changed over and now we're back to original square
all
one.
the conditional uses remain in effect regardless of whether it's.
Very good. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else that would like to speak in opposition to this annexation? May I have a motion from council to close this public hearing? Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. Okay, now we have to vote on the ordinance to extend the corporate limits of the city of Bessemer City regarding a zoning map amendment for property located at tax parcel number 304904, which is 23.688 acres. What is council's desire? Okay, Brent made the motion. Okay, to approve the ordinance. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. Thank you. Okay. This yellow jack. Okay. Number 11 is the ordinance amending zoning map development solutions group. Nathan, do you want to explain some of this? Because it's changed and went back.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Back in February, we had a public hearing to rezone tax parcel 151,678 from urban residential to urban residential conditional district. If you can go back to the slide before this one, please. The other way. Yeah, that one. Thank you so much. This was the site plan that was first sent to the planning board and then that we had in the public hearing. There were concerns from the planning board and city council about the level of density and the number of right-of-way and alleyway connections to Yellow Jacket. If you go to the next slide, please. The developer addressed those concerns and resubmitted a site plan with only one right-of-way connection to Yellow Jacket, one right-of-way connection to ML Kaiser with a public alleyway interconnected within the development. They also decreased the number of units within the development from over 70 to 63, which would bring their request from 12 units per acre to 10 units per acre. There was concern with the planning board. If you look at the top left corner of the site plan, the two townhome units at the intersection of Besttown and ML Kaiser, there were some concerns about the proximity of that to the intersection, so the developer has agreed to offset those during the construction and development of this project to alleviate the concern of the proximity with those units to the intersection. This project will be serviced by city utilities, water, sewer, and natural gas. It is going to be a conditional district because we do have a regulation within our code that prohibits multifamily on parcels larger than 3 acres in size, and this is just over 6 1/4. So they are requesting relief from that. They will be offering about 1.5 acres of open space, which will be a little bit less than the required 2 acres of open space. But this is only a 6.2 parcel of land for development, so it's going to be hard for anybody to meet 2 acres. But with 1.5 acres, I think that would be very good for this development size. And there is a representative from the project here to speak with you and answer any questions if you have.
Does anyone have any questions from the developer?
Got one, Mayor.
Okay.
Hello, my name's Kyle Crow with LC3 Consulting, and happy to answer any questions you have.
Set back from Yellow Jacket Lane to the front of the townhomes.
From the actual right-of-way, it would be 0 to 5 feet. From the travel way, it's about 25 feet.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions from Nathan or the developer?
The spaces that's in between the townhomes, it appears to be a patch of grass in between. That is a open space in between those, or are they all connecting structure?
Yes, sir. The spaces that you see will be about a 5-foot walkway in between each building, or open space in between each building. So there'll be a 0-foot setback between the units that are connected, and then within each individual buildings, there will be a 5-foot setback.
Thank you for turning the buildings around. I appreciate that.
You mentioned gas, they're gonna put gas appliances in, hot water heater.
We're gonna offer those. They'll be heated by natural gas, and they'll offer natural gas appliances to townhome purchasers. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank y'all. Now, do I have a motion from council to rezone the tax parcel ID 151678 from urban residential to urban residential conditional district? We've already held the public hearing.
Make a motion to rezone.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Next, we have an ordinance authorizing an amendment to gas supply contract with the Public Energy Authority of Kentucky, which is referred to as PEAK. Mr. Ross?
Yes, ma'am. A little bit easier to say peak than all that. So if it's okay, I may go ahead and address items 12 and 13 together.
Okay.
They're addressing the same item. So we, as everyone may already knows, the city has a natural gas enterprise fund that we operate as a municipal operator. We've been advised by our third-party consultant, the way that we purchase gas, we have an existing agreement for that gas project or that gas supply. The proposal in this ordinance and this amendment to that supply contract is to extend what we have right now with that supplier and to renegotiate, and actually helps us to lock in a better rate for the purchase of gas. So that's what this ordinance and this amendment both address. They do have to be voted on separately because they're two separate items. But basically what it does, to sum it up, is it allows us to lock in at a better rate of the purchase of gas that is resold to customers.
Anyone have any questions for Josh concerning
We're still gonna be able
this?
to sell off what we don't use.
Yeah, so one of the things that we strive to do is we can do excess sale of gas. That really just depends on the market from year to year. There's a lot of things that go into that, and we also know that the rate itself actually fluctuates from month to month. The only thing the city sets are base rates and availability rates, but the actual rate itself fluctuates. But we will continue to be able to sell off excess capacity, which has been beneficial in certain years in the past.
Okay, I need a motion from council to approve the ordinance. Okay, Brenda. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. And now I need a motion to approve the amendment to the gas supply contract. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. Next is the audit contract. City Council will consider approving the audit contract with Tony Brewer, CPA, for the year end June the 30th, 2024 financials. What's council's desire concerning? Okay.
Was he the only one we solicited to, or?
So in this current year, so I will say Tony Brewer is actually the CPA that is with our current auditor, which is Eddie Carrick. Tony Brewer is going off on his own with his own business. Staff's recommending that we continue with Tony Brewer primarily because of our current workings with him as we go through those financial indicators and those performance evaluation points. There are less vendors that are in the auditing business for local governments, and really to stick with the same auditor, I would recommend this year, because there is an added cost when you do switch, because you're having to recreate everything again a lot of times.
How many years has the firm that he worked for had done it for Bedford City?
I think might be the 4th year that we're in now, possibly. We've had different firms in the past. I think this is the 4th year that we're in with the, Eddie Carrick group. This would be the first year with Tony Brewer, but it's the same auditor.
But he's out on his own. It's,
Yes, ma'am.
Sold a different business.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions?
So there won't be any change as far as setup fee and things like that, since he's just gonna carry
Right,
over.
and that's kind of the goal when we looked at this, was this is the same auditor that has done our books for the last few years. And so given kind of our current financial state, that would be a benefit to the budget to continue that.
Okay, do I have? Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. 5, all opposed? Okay, next is the city manager.
Just a couple of things, as I have a list in front of me, as I usually say. I did want to highlight that our 36th Annual Down Home Festival was very successful this past weekend. We could not have asked for better weather, especially in light of the terrible weather that the county suffered on Wednesday of last week. But Down Home Festival was very successful all 3 nights that we had that in downtown. There's been I've had a couple of questions about fireworks, so I did want to take time to address that. The city does still plan to have our July 4th celebration on Friday, June 28th, and that's at 6 o'clock in downtown, along with a concert. So in the conclusion of that concert and event, we will have a July 4th Independence Day fireworks celebration. Friday, June 14th, we have a Juneteenth festival that's coming up in downtown, along with music. Just to talk about the severe weather that we experienced last week, I've already communicated this to the staff, but Bessemer City as a whole was very fortunate with that situation. As you looked at the paths of the confirmed EF1 tornadoes and wind damage, we did not suffer as much as other neighboring communities, so we're very fortunate for that. But also just keeping those communities in our thoughts and prayers as we continue to offer any type of assistance they may need. The splash pad at Stinger Park, did want to mention, is scheduled to open May 25th, which I think the last time I checked, it had over 70,000 impressions on social media. So we'll see how many people show up.
I hope not 70,000.
As council's aware, we've talked about in work session, staff's been working with Waste Pro, which is our current solid waste provider. They did send a revised or a proposed contract today, so staff's going to be working to review that. We'll have that available for you at the work session to go over and answer any questions you have related to that contract. And then I think that's all I have. Yep, I covered that. I was quick.
Was the one thing though that we added?
Thank you for reminding me, Mayor. I saw Nathan looking at me too. So one item we did want to ask council to approve, and this does need a motion. Our Downtown Development Board, they currently meet the last Monday of the month at 9:30. And they just need a motion approved by council to allow them to meet the last Thursday of the month, I believe at 9 or 9:30. That just works better with the board members' schedule. Typically that fluctuates depending on the board members and what is most convenient. But just checking with state statute with our clerk, she advised that it does require a council motion, so we just need that approved by council, if that's okay.
Okay, do I have a motion? Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. And that's all you have?
Just one more general comment. I always have one more thing. One more thing I was going to say, and it is related to budget. And I know I've already mentioned this at our work sessions. I did get my voice back, so I can be heard a little bit easier. I will say that this budget was a very challenging budget, and I don't want anyone to take that this these fee proposals are taken lightly. As a lifelong resident with family here, understanding the demographics of the community, I know this proposed budget is not ideal by no means. But I think unfortunately with those factors that we were discussing, along with past projects and debts and operational expenses, it's kind of what the city has come to at this point. as far as keeping financially solvent. And that was indicated with our last 22-23 audit with the budget. But I just want to express, I appreciate the work of the department heads, the staff who worked to comprise the proposed budget. Budget is typically an exciting time because you get to look at projects and you see the direction, the policy that the council establishes. This, of course, was a more challenging time, but just appreciate the support of the staff and their input and, of course, council's consideration.
Okay. Michael, do you have anything to report?
I would say I would like to, or I'm glad to see that the live stream was up tonight. That was one thing that was good to see. My word's good as far as I know.
Right up there in Ward 2, so everything's fine.
Nothing to report from Ward 3, but I would just like to take a moment to say that the fourth law enforcement officer was laid to rest today in Charlotte following the shooting incident 2 weeks ago. And just take the opportunity one more time to thank all of our men and women who stand in line and protect our liberties. So thank them. What they do.
Linda? Grant?
I think it's all good. I just, I hope Josh can, I know you've looked at this budget hard and you're over there smiling at me, you know where I'm kind of going, but I hope we can, not settle on 60. I just think it's gonna hurt our citizens too much. But it's quiet in my ward.
John?
Also School Road and Main Street, are there anything else we can do about keeping going straight instead of turning? All the time. Complaining.
Are you referring to 274 and Costner School Road?
Yeah, and
And-
Main Street, you know.
Yeah, we've that's been an area that we've brought up to NCDOT several times. Because a lot of times what happens, and correct me if I'm wrong, what people do is they are in the turn lane to turn on Costner School Road, but they go straight because they're turning on Main Avenue. That's been an area that we've continued to discuss with DOT. And additionally, there's been some concern about the new signaled intersection at Edgewood Road and South Ridge about the turn radius for trucks. So that continues to be brought up. But we'll continue to bring that up to DOT to review.
Virginia 12th, somebody asked, since we had a red light, can we put a flashing red light up there? He said people just cruise right on through.
You said Virginia and 12th?
Yes. Right up here.
That would also be a DOT question, since they're both DOT roads, that intersection.
There being no further business to come before council tonight, do I have a motion that we adjourn? Michael? And any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Yes.
Safe travel. Don't be